Vandeham Sri Guru Sri Juta Padakamalam Sri Gurun Vaishnava Mansham Sri Rupam Sakrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam
Hare Krishna, Nitai Prabhu, Dandavat Pranam. Prabhuji, you are muted, Prabhuji, we cannot hear you.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, Dhanyavad.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu, Dandavat Pranam. Hare Krishna, devotees, Dandavat Pranam. We are very fortunate to have the association of His Grace Nitai Prabhu, who will be enlightening from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 4, Chapter 27 and Sloka number 1. We also will be briefly reading the purport and sloka from Canto 4, Chapter 27 and Sloka number 26, which we could not cover yesterday. Thank you, Prabhuji. Over to you, Prabhu. Prabhuji, are you presenting any document? Do you want me to give?
No, I'm not presenting any document.
Okay, Prabhuji, I will open the sloka and share it, Prabhu. We can start the class with our regular prayers,
Okay.
Prabhu. I will open.
Yeah. Om Jnanatimirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Namah Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pristhaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Iti Namine. Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhayeva cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaur Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So Hare Krishna, dear devotees, it is my good fortune to be with all of you this morning.
You are able to see the screen, Prabhu?
Yes. So I request for everyone's blessings as I attempt to explain two shlokas today from the Srimad Bhagavatam, 4th canto, chapter 26, verse number 26, and chapter 27, verse number 1. Tanme prasida surudha krita kilbhashaya Swaram gatasya mrigayam vyasanaturasya kadevaram vashagatam kusumastravega visrasta pomsnam usati na bhajeta krit. So word by word translation, or I'll just read the translation for this verse. My dear queen, due to my sinful desires, I went to the forest to hunt without asking you. Therefore, I must admit that I have offended you. Nonetheless, thinking of me as your most intimate subordinate, you should still be very much pleased with me. Factually, I'm very much bereaved, but being pierced by the arrow of Cupid, I'm feeling lusty. But where is the beautiful woman who would give up? But where is the beautiful woman who would give up her lusty husband and refuse to unite with him? Purport. Both man and woman desire one another. This is the basic principle of material existence. Women in general always keep themselves beautiful so that they can be attractive to their lusty husbands. When a lusty husband comes before his wife, the wife takes advantage of his aggressive activities and enjoys life. Generally, when a woman is attacked by a man, whether her husband or some other man, she enjoys the attack, being too lusty. In other words, when one's intelligence is properly utilized, both the intellect and the intelligent person enjoy one another with great satisfaction. As stated in the Srimad Bhagavatam 7:9-45. Yan maithuni griyamedi sukham hitucham kandu yenena karoyar eva dukkha dukkham. The actual happiness of the karmis is sex life. They work hard outside the home, and to satiate themselves after their hard labor, they come home to enjoy sex life. King Puranjana went to the forest to hunt, and after his hard labor, he returned home to enjoy sex life. If a man lives outside the home and spends a week in a city or somewhere else, and at the end of the week, he becomes anxious to return home and enjoy sex life with his wife. This is confirmed in Srimad Bhagavatam. Yan maithun adi griha medhi sukham hi tucham. Karmis work very hard simply to enjoy sex. Modern human society has improved the materialistic way of life simply by inducing unrestricted sex life in many different ways. This is most prominently visible in the Western world. Thus end the Bhaktivedanta purports of the 4th canto, 26th chapter of the Srimad Bhagavatam entitled King Puranjana goes to the forest to hunt and his queen becomes angry. So Prabhuji, if you can move to the next verse. So now we will read the first verse of chapter 27. Narada uvacha itham puranjanam sadharyagya yag vashamniya vibhrame puranjani maharaja reme ramayati patim. Word for word translation. Narada uvacha. Narada said, Itham, thus, Puranjanam, King Puranjana, Sadhrayak, completely, Vashamniya, bringing under her control, Vibhrame, by her charms, Puranjani, the wife of King Puranjana, Maharaja, O King, Rimi, enjoyed, Ramayati, giving all satisfaction, Patim, to her husband. Translation. The great sage Narada continued, My dear king, after bewildering her husband in different ways and bringing him under her control, the wife of King Puranjana gave him all satisfaction and enjoyed sex life with him. Purport. After hunting in the forest, King Puranjana returned home, and after refreshing himself by taking a bath and eating nice food, he searched for his wife. When he saw her lying on the ground without a bed, as if neglected and devoid of any proper dress, he became very much aggrieved. He then became attracted to her and began to enjoy her company. A living entity is similarly engaged in the material world in sinful activities. These sinful activities may be compared to King Puranjana's hunting in the forest. A sinful life can be counteracted by various processes of religion, such as yajna, vrata, and dana. That is, the performance of sacrifices, the taking of a vow for some religious ritual, and giving in charity. In this way, one may become free from the reactions of sinful life and at the same time awaken his original Krishna consciousness. By coming home, taking his bath, eating nice foodstuffs, getting refreshed and searching out his wife, King Puranjana came to his good consciousness in his family life. In other words, a systematic family life as enjoined in the Vedas is better than in an irresponsible, sinful life. If a husband and wife combine together in Krishna consciousness and live peacefully, that is very nice. However, if a husband becomes too much attracted by his wife and forgets his duty in life, the implications of materialistic life will again resume. Srila Rupa Goswami has therefore recommended Anasaktasya Vishayan, Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu 1-255. Without being attached by sex, the husband and wife may live together for the advancement of spiritual life. The husband should engage in devotional service, and the wife should be faithful and religious according to the Vedic injunctions. Such a combination is very good. However, if the husband becomes too much attracted to the wife due to sex, the position becomes very dangerous. Women in general are very much sexually inclined. Indeed, it is said that a woman's desire is 9 times stronger than a man's. It is therefore a man's duty to keep a woman under his control by satisfying her, giving her ornaments, nice food and clothes, and engaging her in religious activities. Of course, a woman should have a few children, and in this way not be disturbing to the man. Unfortunately, if the man becomes attracted to the woman simply for sex enjoyment, then family life becomes abominable. If you could go down. The great politician Chanakya Pandit has said, Bharya Rupavati Shatru. A beautiful wife is an enemy. Of course, every woman in the eyes of her husband is very beautiful. Others may see her as not very beautiful, but the husband, being very much attracted to her, sees her always as very beautiful. If the husband sees the wife as very beautiful, it is to be assumed that he is too much attracted to her. This attraction is the attraction of sex. The whole world is captivated by two modes of material nature, Rajagun and Tamogun, passion and ignorance. Generally, women are very much passionate and less intelligent. Therefore, somehow or the other, a man should not be under the control of their passion and ignorance. By performing bhakti yoga or devotional service, a man has to be raised to the platform of goodness. If a husband situated in the mode of goodness can control his wife, who is in passion and ignorance, the woman is benefited. Forgetting her natural inclination for passion and ignorance, the woman becomes obedient and faithful to her husband, who is situated in goodness. Such a life becomes very welcome. The intelligence of the man and woman may then work very nicely together, and they can make a progressive march toward spiritual realization. Otherwise, the husband, coming under the control of his wife, sacrifices the quality of goodness and becomes subservient to the qualities of passion and ignorance. In this way, the whole situation becomes polluted. The conclusion is that a household life is better than a sinful life devoid of responsibility. But if in the household life the husband becomes subordinate to the wife, involvement in materialistic life again becomes prominent. In this way, a man's material bondage becomes enhanced. Because of this, according to the Vedic system, after a certain age, a man is recommended to abandon his family for the stages of vanaprastha and sannyas. So all of you have been discussing this beautiful story of King Puranjana and how material intelligence represents his wife, and his going to the forest also represents that. Prabhupada writes in the purport that his going to hunt is exemplifies or illustrates that he's going to hunt for more lusty activities, and in the process he's going to commit many more sinful activities. And then when he comes back home, because his lust is already there, he wants to enjoy his wife. And when he finds that his wife, who had become very disappointed with her husband because he had left her, he finds her, in a very morose condition, lying on the ground, feeling very disappointed with her husband because he left her without taking her to the forest. So when he sees her upset, then we see in the 26th verse of the 26th chapter, how he tries to appease her and calm her down. And while he's doing that, he suddenly becomes very lusty. And he tries to convince his wife that not to be disappointed, and that they again, unite and enjoy different sensual pleasures. And in today's verse, we see that the translation, this verse is spoken by Narad Muni. He says that, my dear king, after bewildering her husband in different ways and bringing him under her control, the wife of Puranjana gave him all satisfaction and enjoyed life, sex life with him. So there are many, many different points that Srila Prabhupada makes in the purport. And the first thing is that he says that a living entity is similarly engaged in the material world in sinful activities. So the king going out to the forest and killing mercilessly so many different animals, so that those are sinful acts. And similarly, we in this world are engaged in so many different types of sinful activities. And there is a beautiful description of what sinful activities are there in the Chaitanya Charitamrita in the first volume of the Adi Leela. So there Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, he says that he defines what sin is. And he says that Bhaktira Virodhi Karma Dharma Va Dharma Tahara Kalmashanam Shay Mahatama. So he says all those activities that are against the principle of bhakti, whether they are religious in nature or irreligious in nature. So bhaktira virodha karma dharma va adharma. Then he says tahara kalmasha nam. Those are called vices. Those are called sins. And they tahara kalmasha nam taha mahatama. So they are actually rooted in the mode of ignorance. So when we examine our lives, and this is a very nice guide, this verse, to whether we are committing sinful acts or not. So even though we are aspiring to become devotees and we are practicing, but when we engage in activities that pull us away from the Lord, that draw us away from devotional service, those activities are understood to be sinful. And those activities that draw us closer to the Lord, those are real devotional activities, and those are real pious activities that take us more than pious. Those are not just pious, but in one sense, those are transcendental activities that draw us closer to Lord, and they increase our attachment and love for the Supreme Lord. So anything that takes us away and makes us forgetful of our relationship with the Lord, those are considered sinful. And then in the purport, Prabhupada says that a sinful life can be counteracted by various processes of religion such as yajna, vrata, and dan. That is the performance of sacrifices, the taking of a vow for some religious ritual, and the giving of charity. So similarly, as aspiring devotees, we engage in different types of tapasya. And there are positive things that we do, and there are some things that we refrain from. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has explained that there are many items of devotional service. Right? There are 64 items of devotional service. And out of all those 64 items, 5 are most prominent. So for us, the yajna is focused on these 5 activities. That is chanting the holy name, hearing the Srimad Bhagavatam, associating with the devotees, worshipping the deity, and visiting the holy dham. And we all have heard so many times that in the Kali Yuga, chanting is the most prominent way of awakening our God consciousness and destroying the sins and vices of this age. There are many, many verses that glorify how powerful the chanting of the holy names is, and how it destroys all our anarthas and our tendency to commit sin. And then we take vrata, right? We take vows that we will dedicate our life, in serving our Guru Maharaj and Krishna and the devotees and the mission of the Lord. And we also engage in different types of charity. And for us, Prabhupada has many times clarified for us that the highest charity is to become Krishna conscious and then distribute Krishna consciousness to everyone. And then Prabhupada writes that in this way, one may become free from the reactions of sinful life and at the same time awaken his original Krishna consciousness. And then he goes on to say that how Grihastha life can become a very positive force, and how at the same time, if we do not follow the principles that Prabhupada has given us in the purport, then Grihastha life can become a source of entanglement and many, many sinful activities. So how does a Grihastha life become positive? How is a Grihastha life beneficial? So Prabhupada says that without being attached by sex, the husband and wife may live together for the advancement of spiritual life. The husband should engage in devotional service and the wife should be faithful and religious according to the Vedic injunctions. Such a combination is very good. So the husband is expected to set a very good example of someone who is situated in the mode of goodness and is disciplined, his senses are under control, and his priority is to advance in spiritual life. And in this way, he inspires his wife to also follow in this path. And instead of subjugating or letting his senses become subjugated to the attraction of his wife, he is able to control his senses because he's situated in the mode of goodness, and he is able to guide the passion and the ignorance of the lady and able to transform it. So this is the winning formula, that if the man is strongly spiritually situated and the wife is faithful to this person, then the combination becomes a winning combination, and both the husband and the wife can make amazing progress in spiritual life. So in that sense, real Grihastha life, this is what Grihastha life means. That the man and woman are dedicated to serving the Lord. So another explanation that is given, that Grihastha life means Grihastha ashram. Ashram means where God is the center of all our activities. And when Krishna becomes the center of all our activities, then there is so much service, unlimited service, that both the husband and the wife can engage in together. So we all see in our movement that Prabhupada gave us an amazing mission in which we can engage so many different types of propensities. So it doesn't matter. There is no stereotype. There's nothing such as only this can be dovetailed or this talent. So many different talents, so many different proclivities, they can all be engaged in Krishna's service. What to talk about talents and proclivities? Prabhupada has explained in the purports in this chapter how even our lust and anger can be dovetailed in the service of the Lord. That lust can be dovetailed by working hard for the mission of the Supreme Lord. And anger, as we see in Hanumanji's case, that he engaged his anger in destroying adharma. So both these can be engaged, and so many different types of talents, whether one is a teacher, whether one is a businessman, one is a musician, one is an artist, so many different types of things, talents and proclivities that can be engaged so wonderfully in the service of the Lord. And especially for the Grihastha, the home, which is the ashram, where the Lord is the center, it is meant for the glorification of the Supreme Lord. So we should invite devotees, we should invite sadhus to come, and we should serve them with in different ways, whatever according to our capacity. We serve them, and we invite people, we invite our neighbors, we distribute prasadam, and it doesn't matter, we don't have to have so much material capacity. Even we can invite people and give them simple prasadam, and have nice kirtan, have katha in our house, read together, engage all our family members in serving the deity. So the whole house can be transformed, and household life, which is considered so binding and entangling, can become a source of becoming free from the entanglement of material life by keeping Guru and Krishna in the center and by serving together. So one of the key things in this I find is that if a man is meant to be situated in the mode of goodness, for the Grihastha life to become successful, then the man should be trained. The ideal system is that before one gets married, one should be trained up properly, so that one takes up the responsibility of Grihastha life. He understands what he's getting into, and he has been trained to control his senses. He knows what is good for progressing in spiritual life, and he knows that what can entrap him and entangle him. And so what entangles a person in Grihastha life is when the person becomes captivated by the beauty of one's wife. And Prabhupada writes that even though the wife may not be externally very beautiful compared to other beautiful women, but for the man, his wife is beautiful. And if he becomes captivated by the beauty of his wife, and he's just attracted to her in a sensual way, then life will become a source of misery. Because ultimately what will happen is that because one is attracted by lusty desires, and lusty desires can never be satisfied. So there will always be misery, there will always be disappointment, there will always be frustration, there will always be anger. Anger, then finally, it will lead to loss of memory. Once the loss of memory is gone, and then person becomes bewildered and falls into the material pool. This we study in the chapter 2 of the Bhagavad Gita. Krishna explains this, how just from contemplating the sources of enjoyment, right, we develop attachment, and then we get into this whirlpool, and we're completely dragged, and we become completely delusioned by anger and loss of memory. loss of intelligence, and we completely fall into the material pool. So this is very, very, and we see this in the world. Why are people so entangled in this world? It's because of this energy, and the man becoming a victim, or not having enough spiritual strength or restraint to avoid this sensual enjoyment. So when and then a wife becomes like an enemy. So a beautiful wife, and Prabhupada is speaking, one of the things is that in many of the purports, Prabhupada speaks on both two different levels. One is a positive level and one is a negative level. That how Grihastha life can be a positive force, how our intelligence, when it is spiritual, then, the wife can be such a positive force. And when the intelligence becomes materialistic, right, then it becomes dangerous and it becomes a source of entanglement. So one may have a beautiful wife, but if one is self-restrained and trained up in the mode of goodness, then one can, then the wife is no more an enemy. Right? But in general, a good-looking wife, because most of the men are not trained up, nor do they have inclination for spiritual life, and they're also interested in increasing their sensual enjoyment. So a beautiful wife, fuels fire to the lust of the man. So in that sense, that's what Chanakya Pandit says, that such a woman can become the enemy for the man, because the man is completely captivated by her beauty and he loses all his intelligence, and all he endeavors is to satisfy her, so that, and by satisfying her, then he will also get more opportunity to engage in sensual pleasures with her, and that way he becomes very, very entangled. And so the main thing that Prabhupada is reminding us, that especially for us devotees who are trying to get closer to Krishna and become free from these modes of material nature, so we have to ensure, Prabhupada says, that the intelligence of the man and women may then work very nicely together, and they can make a progressive march towards spiritual realization. Otherwise, the husband, coming under the control of the wife, sacrifices his quality of goodness and becomes subservient to the qualities of passion and ignorance. In this way, the whole situation becomes polluted. And another very important point that Prabhupada makes is that that a man should also ensure that the wife is taken care of properly, and that the material needs of the wife, at least to some certain extent, they are also taken care of. That sometimes we tend to ignore this side, and we try to be overly, you could say, spiritual or transcendental, and neglect the basic needs of a woman. Then that can cause also problems. And as Prabhupada writes in the purport, he says that that these things should be taken care of, and that there should be some children, so that the woman feels satisfied, and her natural emotional nature to take care and to serve. When there are children, then that nature is engaged positively, and the wife is guided properly by the man. And then this combination becomes very welcome, as Prabhupada says. Such a combination is very good. So, as most of the viewers are grihasthas, there is so much to learn from this story and all these purports. So many different points that Prabhupada makes to remind us of our real purpose as a grihastha, to keep Krishna in the center and to try to satisfy the desires of our Guru Maharaj and the Lord. And when the husband sets a good example as a leader and the head of the family, and the wife is faithful and supportive of such a husband, then grihastha life is so amazing. There's so many things that a grihastha can do positively in the world and set a good example for other people to follow, and to raise, Krishna consciousness children who will then grow up and further, expand the glories of the Supreme Lord. So we need good householders. We need good children who in the future will be good examples, and they will be upholders of, dharma. So these are very much required in this world. So a grihastha life is not just meant to, oh, this is so low, this is fallen. Yes, in one sense, we could say that one takes up grihastha life because one may not have that level of tapasya to lead a brahmachari life throughout their life. So one may not have that purity, but one can engage one's propensity properly in grihastha life and be guided nicely. A woman who is a faithful and a spiritual wife, she is amazing intelligence, and she can become such a source of strength for the man. And that is the real quality of a nice lady. That she becomes a real source and even guide for a man when she's spiritually inclined and she's inspired by the good example of her husband. Then she's no more material intelligence. She becomes spiritual intelligence. And we see that in our shastras, there's so many examples of good women who was source of such strength, for the man. Like for the Pandavas, Draupadi, she was such a source of strength for the Pandavas. And we see that how dedicated Sita was to Lord Ram. So these are very, very ideal examples. And of course, overnight, we may not be able to emulate these ideals, and we should be conscious that this is a journey. But as long as we continue to make, and we keep trying to be more sincere, we try to be more serious in our practices, then gradually we will make progress towards such ideals presented in the scriptures. So we are always advised not to imitate them, but follow in their footsteps. And so many of our Mahajans were grihasthas, and they set such great examples for us to gain inspiration from and follow in their footsteps. We see Bhakti Vinod Thakur. He was a grihastha with so many different responsibilities. He was a judge. He had so many children. But if we examine his life, Krishna was in the center, and he tried to use every minute in Krishna's service. And we see Prabhupada, that even though his wife was not that supportive, still he continued. It was a struggle in that sense for him, but he continued despite the lack of support from his wife. So Sometimes we may be even situations where our wife is not supportive of our spiritual practices, but that doesn't mean we give up our spiritual practices. And Prabhupada, he continued. And even though he was not able to do so many things that he wanted to do, but he kept his aspirations. He kept his aspirations going and not become discouraged by that situation. And then when the time came, and that is the last point that Prabhupada makes in this purport, is that the man is encouraged that at a certain time, when one's grihastha's responsibilities are over, in the sense that the children are grown up and they've also, they have been married, then the man should take vanaprasth life and then sannyas life. And Prabhupada makes one thing very clear. He says that even though one may not be able to take sannyas, but one should definitely take vanaprasth. So this is what we should be preparing. Our whole life should prepare us, and we will naturally be prepared if we are serving properly as a husband and wife. If we serve properly in the right mood that Prabhupada has given us, then gradually we will become detached, and we will come to the point where vanaprastha life becomes very natural for the husband and the wife. So this is something that becomes possible only if we live as properly in the grihastha ashram, that the wife and the husband, we work together to serve the Supreme Lord. And of course, there are many different challenges, even because we are conditioned. So there will be challenges. And the key is, if the women and husbands both are trained before getting married, then that prepares them properly to enter into grihastha ashram. But sometimes we see that, there are many people who are householders. They come to Krishna consciousness after they are married. And sometimes we see that, maybe the wife is more inclined towards Krishna consciousness than the man. So there are many different situations. And those have to be taken up individually. But the ideal is that if we can train our children properly, so that if they decide to go into grihastha life, they really understand what the purpose of grihastha life is, what their responsibilities are, so that they're prepared, they have the right expectations, and then they're able to carry out their grihastha life in a responsible way. And this is another key word in this purport, that we should be responsible. The whole purpose of taking up a grihastha life is being responsible. And Prabhupada has repeatedly reminded us that a responsible household life is much better than frivolous sensual enjoyment. So we should be responsible, and we should realize that marriage is a great responsibility. It is not just, we combine man and women to enjoy sensually, but it is a way of getting together and both serving together as a team and understanding each one's responsibilities. And when we carry out our responsibilities in our proper way, then grihastha life becomes such a source of strength, such a source of happiness and joy, and also contribution. We are able to contribute to society. We engage our possessions, our wealth in serving, the mission and the sadhus, and money is required for charity is required. So if the grihastha has these abilities and has the right attitude, then Grihastha life can become such a powerful force in this world. And we should all pray as Grihasthas that we can take these teachings that we are studying in these beautiful purports to heart and continue in our life with responsibility. And our real responsibility is to serve, Guru and Krishna, and to please our spiritual master, to please the Lord. And in this way, both the husband and wife, they live a life of joy and happiness. So, by leading such a life of tapasya, we are able to experience the real joy of spiritual life. So thank you all very much for patiently hearing. If you'd like to share any realizations, or if you'd like to ask any questions, I will try to address them.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Thank you very much for wonderful nectarian session with a lot of practical insights for Grihasthas. Thank you very much, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna devotees. I think many of you or many of us may be knowing Nitai Prabhu well, but for those who are not familiar with him, I want to give a very, very brief introduction about Prabhuji. Prabhuji is a very senior disciple of His Holiness Satswarup Maharaj, who has presented us the nectar of Srila Prabhupada Leela Amrit. Prabhuji has been with ISKCON for more than 2 decades, and Prabhuji was serving our congregation 3 years back, and he was personally serving Narhari Prabhu for various initiatives at the temple leadership level. And Prabhuji's insight into Srimad Bhagavatam and Chaitanya Charitamrita we got to know. Thank you very much, Prabhuji, once again for the wonderful nectarian session from Srimad Bhagavatam. And I have unmuted the lines of all the devotees. If we have questions or comments or reflection, may please go ahead and share. I think we have our Grace Narhari Chaitanya Prabhu as well in the class.
Oh. Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, please accept my respectful obeisances. Hare Krishna.
Please accept my too.
Hare Krishna,
How
Prabhuji.
are you doing? Thanks. I thank all the organizers to get us such a wonderful Vaishnava face to face. Only the screen is separating us.
Yes, very happy to see you, Prabhu.
Prabhu reminded us of our old days. I hope it returns back. There's prayers.
Yes,
So,
Prabhuji.
Okay.
I had such a wonderful time in Bangalore. Some of my best times I had serving at the temple with Prabhuji under his guidance. He was so encouraging, like a father. So I really miss that, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Good, good. So hope to see you someday.
Yes, Prabhuji, I'd come, but you had gone to America. So I hope to come soon within the next 2-3 months again, Prabhuji. So I'll definitely, yes.
Yeah. Very nice, whatever you spoke about. So you have nailed us on our head so that take up Vanaprastha.
Prabhupada is nailing us.
Vanaprastha is the word we should remove. Vana, we should put it as ISKCON Prastha.
Yes, that is Vanaprastha.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because the movement is growing so much. We require strong leaders. Yeah, there is no retirement for us. Only retire when we leave this body.
Yes.
Very nice. Your thought process of explanation was really touching to the heart, and certainly it made me to rethink about what I'm doing. Yeah, management is not a very peaceful life, but yes, certainly classes like this gives us the hope that someday we can make it. Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Yes, thank you very much,
I'll
Prabhuji.
be in touch with you.
Yes, Hare Krishna. I see Venugopal Prabhu also here. Dhanyavad, Prabhuji.
Dhanyavad pranams, Prabhu. So nice to hear from you, see you. Thank you so much for this wonderful session, reminding the ideals of Grihastha Ashram. Really pertinent points, reminders. Yeah, we need, as you said, we need very good examples of these. You mentioned probably, as you were saying, like we shouldn't be, as a caution you were saying, and we use this often. We shouldn't be transcendental in our in a way, like when in a not
Falsely transcendental, yes.
so that is so predominant. From historically, maybe in our understanding of detachment and so if you can just shed some light on how to get over this, because it can really be perceived not so positively by those who don't understand, especially when you're preaching and or somebody new. They observe some of our actions. So I just wanted to hear
Like
a little more.
what kind of actions, Prabhuji? If you could just elaborate.
I mean, I think your statement transcendental, when you said that, like sometimes we don't pay attention to how our actions are perceived, because our actions may be deep with deep realization, but in a public setting, it may not be understood. Like the way we behave, all are externals, I'm saying.
Yes.
So that's where I thought you were referring to that. If that,
so I was speaking in the context of the husband and wife relationship, that the wife has certain needs that need to be taken care of, so that she may like some nice clothing, right, nice ornaments, proper arrangement in the house, right, where so if you don't take care of this, then things may become a struggle. Now it depends on the woman. If the woman is also very deeply and advanced, then she may not need that. But in general, the reality is that we all are conditioned, right? So we are not that so spiritually advanced. So we should not imitate that the highly spiritual realized states. So we should take care of the woman's needs. Certain needs are there. So even though the man may be very spiritually evolved, he still has to take care of these needs. As we see, like even in the pastime of we see Devahuti and Kardama Muni. Kardama Muni, he really takes care of her. I mean, he provides such nice, the flying on the airplane, and so he takes care. But at the same time, he's a very, he's so spiritually evolved that he doesn't misdirect her into in perceiving that material life is all in all. Yes, certain material things are required to be put in place so that ultimately we can transcend them. So they're like a stepping stone. That okay, they're there, but ultimately it's not that we stay attached to them. But even the woman, by providing certain things and by advancing in spiritual life, then she becomes detached from all these things eventually.
Yes, bro. Thank you. Sorry, I have been thinking about outreach and preaching, so I was relating the woman to the newcomers and how we should take care of.
So as you said also that even with newcomers, sometimes maybe our language, our behavior, it's okay with devotees, because they understand. But with newcomers, sometimes we have to not be so. In one sense, they get overwhelmed with our practices. When we see like we are offering obeisances maybe on the street and this and that, so they may get a little overwhelmed. So we may be respectful like this, or without actually getting into our practices in front of people who don't have such a deep understanding of spirituality. So we try and maintain the social etiquette, when we are there with, new people, or, but of course, that doesn't mean that we compromise, our spirituality, but sometimes etiquette, we maintain the social etiquette. So just to make the person a little comfortable, because sometimes, because they're not used to interacting on such a spiritual level, they tend to misjudge these activities. So just to bring them to a comfortable level, we maintain the social etiquette with them, and so that they become more open to hearing us.
Thank you,
I have a
Prabhu.
question to you.
Yes, Prabhuji.
Your class was focused more on the husband's duty towards wife.
Yes.
How does it apply to the wife towards the husband?
So Prabhupada wrote a very simple statement there, that he said that that the wife should serve such a husband faithfully. The husband should engage in devotional service, and his wife should be faithful and religious according to the Vedic injunctions. Such a combination is very good. So the wife should be faithful to such a husband, and she should she should be supportive of his spiritual aspirations, and then the wife becomes a real powerful force. And the husband also should engage his wife properly in Krishna consciousness. And if she's properly engaged, then so the husband should give the wife that opportunity to engage in according to her proclivities. But the main point is that the wife should be faithful towards her husband. So if the husband is a good example, then the wife is faithful to that husband. That means she's supportive, and she also dovetails her aspirations in fulfilling the aspirations of the husband, in the sense that because the husband has such spiritual aspirations, then it's a winning combination. So the wife, supports him. There's so many different ways to support the husband, to keep the house peacefully, nicely, to speak nice words, to prepare nice preps. So the husband is comfortable when he's at home. Also, the wife, serves the husband's, like if the husband's parents are at home, so that there's harmony in the house, the wife serves the parents. So there are so many ways the wife can serve and be faithful to the husband. So that would be another session, Prabhu.
No, what I meant was, in
yes.
the present world, in ISKCON also, there is gender equality which is coming up, and also the wives are also working.
Yes.
So if you are talking on the ideal situation is acceptable,
Yes.
but in the present scenario, how do you really harmonize this relationship? That was my
yes. So I think I think in today's circumstances, the wife and husband should mutually work out, different areas of responsibility. Sometimes the wife is working, so the husband also has to extend. He can't expect, the wife, to go out and work and then, do all the household activities herself. Then the husband has to support the wife, if the wife is working. But this has to be mutually worked out. I mean, there are some husbands who want the wife to work, but there are some husbands who prefer the wife, not work. So this has to be mutually worked out. Every situation is different. Every person is different with different desires and different aspirations. So these things have to be mutually worked out with each other. And especially if the woman is working, then the husband also has to balance the situation and give her the support so that she doesn't get overwhelmed with her, with her job and her responsibilities at home. And ideally, when the children are small, it is better that the woman is, at home with the children, because the children really need those formative years, from, especially I've seen through my own experience, till the children are like 7, 8, even up to 10, they need a lot of support. They need a lot of time. And when we give them that time, then what happens is, especially the mother's love, then the children, by the time they are 10, they become emotionally very, very, balanced. And so at least from my experience, I feel it's really helpful that if, a woman, especially when the children are born, until they're very young, then if she's at home, and the husband can provide the material means, and even if life can be kept simple, but that tapasya of being with the children, and the wife, being with the children, it really stabilizes the child's emotion, psychology, and the children have a much better chance of taking to spiritual life. Otherwise, it becomes very difficult if we leave them in, in crutches and, daycare, and the children can have a very, very difficult time there. So,
Hare
Krishna, Prabhuji.
Thank you, Prabhuji. And Hare Krishna devotees, are there any other questions, reflections, comments?
Hare Krishna,
Hare
Nitai
Krishna,
Prabhu.
Gokul Chandra Prabhu.
Pranam. So happy to see you.
Same here, Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. And Shankarshan Priya Prabhu, thank you so much. You got the SME, subject matter expert, for this topic. He's such an exemplary star. So, and also Prabhuji,
struggling.
I want to ask you a question.
Yes.
Shankarshan Priya Prabhu, when he opened this discussion session, he thanked you for a nectarian class. But I find your class very bitter. There are so many instructions that I'm not able to follow. I'm very attached to my grihastha comforts. So what should I do?
Well, these words are from Prabhupada's purport. So
when will I find these instructions nectar like Sankarshan Priya Prabhu?
It's good we find them bitter in one sense, because it will inspire us to, it makes us, feel the pinch of how much we can improve ourselves. So I'm sure that is the real motivation. You want to, improve further, and that should be our motivation to improve further in our, as examples and as grihasthas. So yes, we should take it up like that, that, and if we, and Prabhupada says that, in the Gita, it is said that this, spiritual life is bitter in the beginning. So it's expected, things will be difficult. But when, tapo divyam, when we commit and when we try and we struggle, day after day to carry out these instructions, then gradually they will turn into Brahma Saukya Anantam. Tapo divyam, turns into, the result of that is Brahma Saukya Anantam. So it will come. But even there is joy in the struggle. When we try to carry out the struggle, just that endeavor itself gives us so much satisfaction. So Prabhupada, even though, there are so many strong statements, if we try to apply them sincerely, then that struggle also gives us great satisfaction. So this is the beauty of Krishna consciousness. Even though we may not have reached the ultimate goal, but the process itself is a source of great satisfaction and joy. Just the fact that we are trying to carry out these difficult, in today's world, these are very difficult instructions. So, but this is what we need. If we don't do this, then we continue our misery. Otherwise, we just, get more and more entangled. So.
Thank you so much, Prabhuji, for your guidance. And please allow me to wish you in advance a very happy Krishna conscious birthday tomorrow.
Oh, thank you very much,
Many,
Prabhuji.
many, many more
Remembered.
happy returns of the day.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Prabhuji. It's very kind of you. Please bless me
Haribol.
and pray for me. so we can continue on this journey of this beautiful process of devotional service. So
Thank you,
all
Prabhuji.
very-
Thank
Yes.
you very much, Prabhuji. I think there are some couple of comments. I will just read it out.
Yes.
Kalyan Ravulakari Prabhu has mentioned, only thing we need more of these classes, Prabhuji. Your servant.
Hare Krishna.
Saraswati Mataji has mentioned, thank you very much, Prabhuji, for wonderful classes, wonderful instructions. And Shanti Mataji has mentioned wonderful class, and thank you so much, Prabhu.
Thank you all very much for patiently hearing. And
So echoing Kalyan Prabhu's request, if we can have more of your association regularly, online at least.
yes, Prabhuji.
Thank you and happy Krishna conscious birthday in advance.
Thank you. Jai Ravi Lochan Prabhuji. Hari Bol. Hare Krishna Gauranga Prabhu. Jai. That is your initiated name now. Ravi Lochan Gauranga Das. Hari Bol. Jai Prabhu. Very nice to see you.
Last year, same here, Prabhu.
Yes. Hare Krishna.
Just keep needing more of your association. That's what I just wanted to say. Thank you.
Hare Krishna. Thank you very much. Thank you all very much.
Thank you,
Pancha
Prabhuji.
kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhayevcha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha.
Tantra Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Nitai,
Mata Koti Vaishnava ki jai.
Hari Hari
Hari Hari Bol.
Hare
Hare
Krishna.
Krishna. Thank you.
Thank you,
Dandavad to everyone. Hare
Dandavad.
Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
I'll-
Thank you so much, Prabhu.
Thank you, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna devotees, I'll be ending the Zoom session. Thank you very much, Hare Krishna. I will meet again tomorrow. Hare Krishna. Hare.